Welcome to our discussion on central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Today, we're diving into this digital money concept that's really shaking things up in the world of finance.
I'm excited. So CBDCs, right? They're basically digital forms of cash issued by central banks.
Exactly. Exactly. So, unlike cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which are decentralized, CBDCs are, fully issued and
Yep.
controlled by governments and their central banks. They're like the digital counterparts to the physical currency we use every day.
Right. And the whole idea is to modernize our financial systems. Would you say CBDCs are a tool for upgrading how we transact?
Absolutely. It's like imagine having a debit card, but with an entirely new, more integrated digital layer that's directly managed by your central bank. This means faster, more efficient transactions and even increased financial inclusion.
Now, here's what I'm curious about. There are, I understand, two types of CBDCs, retail and wholesale. Can you break that down?
Sure thing. Retail CBDCs are basically those issued for use by individuals and businesses in day-to-day transactions. Think of it as digital cash for the general public. Wholesale CBDCs, on the other hand, are meant for interbank transfers and settlement. It's like the difference between buying your morning coffee and the massive bank transactions that keep the economy's wheels turning.
Right. And if I recall correctly, an example of this retail type is somewhat represented by the digital pound concept being explored by the Bank of England, yes?
Yes, absolutely. It's sort of like the Bowie imagining a digital version of the British pound, one that wouldn't be physically touched, but would still function like your funds on a debit card.
Now, person one though, isn't there a risk of privacy issues since these digital currencies would have transaction ledgers that let governments see our spending activity?
That's a key point. CBDCs would indeed come with a fully tracked ledger, unlike physical cash, which inherently provides more anonymity. This is one of the main drawbacks: privacy concerns and cybersecurity
Right.
risks.
But wouldn't it be an advantage in terms of anti-money laundering and, preventing fraud?
It can be seen that way, yes. The centralized ledger allows for real-time monitoring to combat financial crime. But here's the kicker. There's a delicate balance between security and individual privacy, and getting that right might be a real
True story.
challenge.
Speaking of challenges, I read that the technology behind CBDCs might use a centralized ledger rather than blockchain. Can you explain why they choose that route?
Sure, while blockchain is fantastic for decentralization, as seen with Bitcoin, it comes with complexities, especially when trying to integrate with a system that must be controlled by a central authority. A centralized ledger is, well, simpler to manage, giving central banks tight oversight on every transaction.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting how these digital currencies could enable people without access to traditional bank services to join the financial system through digital wallets on smartphones, right?
Exactly. That's one of the huge benefits: financial inclusion. In many parts of the world, individuals who don't have physical bank accounts might still be able to handle transactions using a smartphone if they use a CBDC.
Yes, indeed. But let me challenge that a bit. Don't you think that relying solely on smartphones could exclude people in regions with poor digital infrastructure?
That's a fair critique. While the potential for financial inclusion is huge, there are also implementation challenges. Some regions might lack reliable internet or the necessary technology, which is why some proposals include offline transaction capabilities. It's like striking the right balance between cutting-edge technology and universal accessibility.
Got it. And aside from inclusion, another big motivator for central banks is the rise of stablecoins and cryptocurrencies. Is it fair to say that CBDCs are partly a reaction to these decentralized digital assets?
Absolutely. The central banks see stablecoins like Tether or USD coin, and even cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, as challenges to the traditional financial system. By issuing CBDCs, they aim to regain control and provide a digital currency that's regulated and secure.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, there's also this analogy comparing CBDCs to something like a city library versus a COM library system. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure, that's a neat analogy. Imagine city library, a public library system controlled entirely by the city government. Everything is tracked and managed centrally. That's your CBDC, fully controlled by a government entity. Now, think of COM Library, a community-run, decentralized library where decisions are made collectively by volunteers. That's akin to cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, where no single entity holds the reins.
Exactly. So it boils down to control versus freedom, centralized regulation versus decentralized anonymity.
Spot on. And while centralization can offer stability and regulatory oversight, it also raises concerns about how much surveillance the government might have over individual transactions.
Right, I see that tension. Let's talk a little about the benefits then. Faster transactions, reduced costs, and even real-time monitoring of the money supply sound pretty compelling, especially for modern economies.
Definitely. The efficiency benefits are huge. Imagine cross-border transfers that take seconds instead of days. Plus, with real-time monitoring, central banks can manage monetary policy more dynamically, quickly adjusting to economic changes.
That's pretty futuristic. But with that, there's also the matter of cybersecurity. With everything online, the stakes are higher, right?
Exactly. Cyber attacks and data breaches are real risks, and any vulnerability in the system could have massive implications for the entire economy.
Yeah, that's a major concern. I also found it interesting that some countries, like Denmark, have even halted their CBDC projects, thinking their existing systems are sufficient. What do you make of that?
That's an important perspective. It shows not every environment finds value in moving entirely digital. Some places believe that maintaining cash alongside digital solutions provides the right mix for security and privacy.
Exactly. And what about global examples? Countries like China and the Bahamas are aggressively testing or even rolling out their versions of CBDCs?
Yes, China with its digital yuan and the Bahamas with the sand dollar are leading the charge. These cases offer a live testing ground for the benefits and drawbacks. They're like pioneers exploring an unmapped territory of digital money.
Certainly. So, while the concept is still evolving, do you think CBDCs could eventually replace physical cash, or will they coexist?
That's the million-dollar question. It seems more likely they'll coexist for a while. Physical cash has its charm. Tactile, anonymous, trusted by many. CBDCs might, over time, become preferable for convenience and efficiency, but privacy issues and public sentiment might keep physical cash around longer than some
That
expect.
balance will be interesting to watch. Now, to wrap up on a forward-looking note, do you see CBDCs changing the global financial landscape in a big way eventually?
I do. The potential is huge. It's not just about faster transactions, it's about reshaping monetary policy, financial inclusion, and the overall trust in the system. But it also comes with challenges that require careful implementation, regulation, and public acceptance.
Absolutely a double-edged sword. And I guess it's a bit of a learning curve for central authorities, finding that sweet spot between innovation and safeguarding fundamental rights.
Precisely, it's like designing a high-tech security system that doesn't feel like it's watching every move you make. There's a lot of work
For
to
sure,
be done.
that's a tough balancing act. All in all, CBDCs are a fascinating leap into the future of money, blending cutting-edge tech with traditional monetary control. Thanks for taking us through that deep dive today.
Thank you for the great questions. It's been a very engaging chat on how central banks, digital currencies, and regulations are intersecting to shape the future.
Absolutely.
Let's keep an eye on these developments as they evolve.
Agreed. Thanks everyone for tuning in.